Welcome to the Fall 2020 Ladies Big Book Study Recording Series. My name is Kimberly and I am a recovered alcoholic. I am the facilitator of a tri-weekly big book study for ladies only, and we record each session so we can share the knowledge along with you. What we do is we read the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous line by line. We pause on each page and have discussion time to share our experience, our strength, and our hope on each page. You are more than welcome to follow along in this series and do the work of the steps of the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous. If you do need support at any time, please reach out to me in the Contact Us area of my YouTube channel, and we're happy to provide you with support. The online recordings are open to men and women. Do not be discouraged, gentlemen. Our ladies' point of view may offer you a different perspective. So welcome. I hope you enjoy. So we are continuing on in Alcoholics Anonymous. There is the solution, page 22. We're on the second paragraph. This is by no means a comprehensive picture of the true alcoholic, as our behavior patterns vary. But this description should identify him roughly. Why does he behave like this? If hundreds of experiences have shown him that one drink means another debacle with all its attendant suffering and humiliation, why is it he takes that one drink? Why can't he stay on the water wagon? What has become of the common sense and willpower that he still sometimes displays with respect to other matters? Perhaps there will never be a full answer to these questions. Opinions vary considerably as to why the alcoholic reacts differently from normal people. We are not sure why, once a certain point is reached, little can be done for him. We cannot answer the riddle. We know that while the alcoholic keeps away from drink, as he may do for months or years, he reacts much like other men. We are equally positive that once he takes any alcohol whatever into his system, something happens, both in the bodily and mental sense, which makes it virtually impossible for him to stop. The experience of any alcoholic will abundantly confirm this. So in there, we're talking a lot about the malady. You know, that once we start drinking, we have that inability to stop when we want to. You know, how many people can tell me, well, just don't pick up the first drink. If you got the allergy, just don't pick up the first drink. Well, that'd be really nice, but I pick up the first drink and I can't explain why. Even though I know the conundrums that I get myself in, I know the suffering that comes after the first drink, I still can't put it down. There is never full answers to these questions. Opinions variably as to why the alcoholic reacts differently from normal people. I don't need to know why. I've stopped questioning why. I've worked with a few women who were why askers. They were intellect, like myself, and I wanted to have the scientific explanation, why it happened, what happened, when the switch flips, what's the trigger, how does it work. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter the whys or the hows or the whens I became an alcoholic. What matters is I am alcoholic. And that's something I had to grasp and wrap my mind around. I now no longer search for the reason why. I'm not questioning, was it childhood trauma? Was it a bad breakup in high school? How did my self-esteem get so shitty? Why do I have all these fears? Where do fears come from? Why am I alcoholic? I don't care anymore. I've stopped wondering why. All I need to know is that I am an alcoholic. And that's kind of where the only form of acceptance I have. I'm alcoholic. I don't need to know who, what, when, where, or why it happened. I am. And science still hasn't been able to figure it out. I've stopped looking for answers, so I'm just good with being an alcoholic. And it talks here about how when we're away from the drink, we react much like other men, women, of course, as well. But once I take that alcohol into my system, something happens, both bodily and mental sense, which makes it virtually impossible for me to stop. Once I pick up the first drink, I have set off that chain reaction. The allergy kicks in and I cannot stop. The things I do are not characteristic of the person I am. My ex used to describe me as I would turn into an angry little boy. Like my facial features would actually change as I ingested alcohol. It was like this weird morph, and I would just become a different person altogether. I can't explain it. All I know is I get real angry when I drink. I'm not a fun-loving drunk anymore. I was before, but I'm not anymore. So that talks a lot about the malady and touches on the allergy. Della.
Question.
Yeah.
Fellow alcoholic. Good morning, ladies. When they say we're off the wagon or on the wagon, where does that come from? Is that the water wagon? Or, yeah, I'm just curious. Where does that come from, if any of the ladies know?
Well, the only reference I have is sports, and you hop on the bandwagon, which means you're rooting for a team. So I'm not sure where the term wagon came from.
Right?
Maybe in the old days you jumped on a wagon and there was water. Anybody has better knowledge of wagons than me. But I know, like in sports, when your team fails in the playoffs, you jump on the bandwagon and you start tooting the horn of the other team. Debbie put her hands up. Maybe she has an answer.
Water wagon, right here, it says. So when you're on the water wagon, you're not drinking alcoholic beverages. Temperance workers traveled the country preaching about the evils of strong drink from the back of their wagons. People were invited to promise to drink water only and take no alcoholic substance for the rest of their lives. Hence, on the water wagon meant you had stepped up to the wagon and signed the pledge. And then when you fell off the wagon was when you drank alcoholic beverages.
Yay!
Fabulous. Thank you, Deborah. I knew it meant jumping wagon to wagon, but I didn't know the history. They used to ride on wagons. It was like a big temperance parade floating around. That's awesome. Anyone else? Janice, are you trying to unmute? Or were you just unmuted? Were you trying to speak? No? Okay.
I was trying to, yeah.
Oh, Annette, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm Annette, and I'm an alcoholic. I did want to emphasize what you had said, is that I spent years trying to figure out why. And then I think finally, even though people had told me it for a long time, part of the search for why was, well, if I could figure out why, then I could fix it. Then I could go back, and so it really did take work to get to that acceptance that why wasn't really important. It just is, because certainly I remember at 5 years old or 6 years old or something, my mother said, don't drink, it runs in our family, right? So, but then what did I do? And so while I was going, well, it's all their fault, right? If they had behaved better, my ancestors had behaved better, I wouldn't be in this. But then it was like all the other reasons that they talk about in the book. But it really took some work to let that go, let that search go. It just didn't matter. It just didn't matter. It wasn't going to change anything. And so, but I have gotten some answers as I go more in my discovery of where my character defects will come up or how they're triggered and things like that. But anybody who's new to the program, try to get off that wagon as early as you can, because there's a lot of anxiety about that, and I could have spent that energy, working the steps a little stronger. So anyway, thanks.
Thank you. And I haven't seen one person who's still holding on to that ideal succeed until they let go of that idea. And like none of us have a time machine, so there's not really anything we can do to go backwards to change anything. If you think of it when we compare and contrast to cancer, if me eating chemically laced foods or drinking water from a well that had some chemicals caused my cancer, I don't have a time machine to go back and change it. I just have to deal with what is here in my present. So if we want to compare, that's a good comparison. Marianne, Toronto.
Hi, friends. I am an alcoholic from Toronto. My name's Marianne. Good to be here. Good to be sober. Nice to see everybody. I know that when I had some well-meaning family members who were non-alcoholic who really wanted to have me figure out why I was drinking so much. And it wasn't until I got to you people and to another alcoholic who said, because you're alcoholic, that's why you drink too much. But they didn't. So sometimes well-meaning people can keep you stuck in the why, and it's the beauty of AA and another alcoholic telling you, yeah, so am I. That's what I did too. Thanks.
Thank you so much. There we go. All right, page 23. These observations would be academic and pointless if our friend never took the first drink, thereby setting the terrible cycle in motion. Therefore, the main problem of the alcoholic centers in his mind rather than in his body. If you asked him why he started on that last bender, the chances are he will offer you any one of 100 alibis. Sometimes these excuses have a certain plausibility, but none of them really make sense in the light of the havoc an alcoholic's drinking bout creates. They sound like the philosophy of the man who, having had a headache, beats himself on the head with a hammer so he can't feel the ache. If you draw this fallacious reasoning to the attention of an alcoholic, he will laugh it off or even become irritated and refuse to talk. Once in a while, he may tell the truth. And the truth, strange to say, is usually that he has no more idea why he took that first drink than you have. Some drinkers have excuses with which they are satisfied part of the time, but in their hearts they really do not know why they do it. Once this malady has a real hold, they are a baffled lot. There is the obsession that somehow, someday, they will beat the game. But they often suspect they are down for the count. How true this is, you realize. In a vague way, their families and friends sense that these drinkers are abnormal, but everyone hopefully awaits the day when the sufferer will rouse himself from his lethargy and assert his power of will. So I really like this page. I've heard it interpreted a whole bunch of different ways, and I'm going to break down some of that as well. But in this, it says, these observations would be academic and pointless if our friend never took the first drink, thereby setting the terrible cycle in motion. That's not speaking to the first time they ever drank. That's speaking about now. When we drink, that sets our terrible cycle in motion. Like I said, I don't know when I became alcoholic. I don't know when my allergy was kicked in. I don't know if my mom drank when I was in her belly and that exposed me and triggered my allergy. I don't know. So it's not referring to the first time I pick up a drink. Yes, had I never drank in my life, I could still be alcoholic. I just wouldn't know. So if you compare it to someone who's, say, allergic to peanuts, if they never ate peanuts, would they then be not allergic to peanuts? No, they just wouldn't have realized they're allergic to peanuts because they never ate a peanut. But once they eat a peanut and they realize they're allergic, they're not going to eat peanuts again. They may, like the alcoholic, try it again just to see and verify it, but most likely they're not going to touch peanuts again. But they would always have been allergic to peanuts. It wouldn't have just kicked in one day. So for me, I believe that I've always been alcoholic. I only discovered I was alcoholic when I drank. It's not like had I never picked up the first drink, I would have never been an alcoholic, right? I can remember eating a whole bottle of baby aspirin. There was things I did that just weren't the same as other people. So when I hear people say, well, if you never took the first drink, you never would have become an alcoholic. Well, I never would have realized I was an alcoholic. Summer is predestined to be an alcoholic. I myself and her dad both battled alcoholism. So odds are pretty strong that she's going to be an alcoholic. She's exposed to this program. She's applying it in her life. So if she never picks up the first drink, she'll never discover whether or not she has the allergy. Does that mean that she's never an alcoholic? Not necessarily. My older daughter has a different father. He was non-alcoholic. She doesn't have this allergy. Does that mean she never ever is going to develop it? Not necessarily. So again, these are the things that we don't know, so I don't need to test it. Again, I only need to know that I am an alcoholic. And if I pick up a drink, I'm going to trigger my allergy. I know that because I've tried it out. So in here, that's what they're talking about. They're talking about people like me who have drank, who know they have the allergy. Therefore, if I do not pick up my first drink, I'm not going to set this terrible cycle in motion. And then we talk about why we started on that last bender. I had some great reasons. It was a hockey game. I was just going to have one beer. For me, that's a plausible reason to have a drink. But if I really got down to it right at the bottom where it says once in a while he may tell the truth, really, if you take away the hockey game was just a reason, an excuse for me to drink that covered up the fact that I drank because I was miserable. I drank because I had deep-seated resentments. I drank because I had insecurities. I just found any plausible reason that I would kind of masquerade behind. It was a beautiful sunny day. I was going to have a mimosa on the patio. It's a Sunday morning. You have a Caesar on Sunday mornings. I always had a reason. But if you really, really looked for the truth, that wasn't the real reason that I was picking up that drink. Anybody else? Because it would really be, I don't know, it was a sunny day. Y'all aren't very chatty this round. Marianne Toronto.
Well, as I go along in this program, I realized that was just my only solution, was my failed solution. Have a drink and forget about it. And because I didn't have another solution to life, that's my reason.
Absolutely. And when I didn't have that reason, I had shopping, I had gambling. Heck, I had soap operas all day because I could sit in that fantasy land and not have to think about my life because I was thinking about, Victor Newman's life and all his problems. Like, you name it, I could get myself out of self with it. Della.
I like that. Della alcoholic. Yeah, no, not even soap operas, but like the Real Housewives.
Yep.
Oh man, like I could totally get into that and just like, oh yeah, look at their lives, right? Oh, okay. I like when it says the sufferer will rouse himself from his lethargy and assert his power of will. Like the family and friends really want us to, get off our butts and use willpower. But we know as alcoholics that self-will is not going to do it on its own. So I like how they pointed that out for sure. Thanks, Kim.
And you know what that sounds like? Waking up from my lethargy and asserting my power of will. It's getting up from that hangover going, I am never, ever, ever, ever going to do that again. There's my willpower, right? And then what happened? That night, I'm drinking every time. Michelle?
My name's still an alcoholic. And the one that jumped out at me from, when I sat down with my sponsor is where it says that you ask them why they did it, and the answer is they give you 1,000 reasons, and basically they don't have any idea. But it does sound like the philosophy of the man who, having a headache, beats himself on the head with a hammer so he can't feel the ache. And to me, that was, I would come to in the morning. I wouldn't wake up. I'd come to. I'd have a pounding headache. And so what do I want to do? I want to bite the dog that bit me. So I want to add I want to, take some more alcohol in because I'm like, that'll calm my nerves. So that's the way my thinking is. Like, it's always, the answer is always to drink more. It's never like, oh, you woke up with a headache. Maybe you have a problem with drinking, for the 100th morning in a row. And I did that all the time. I always bit the dog that bit, Anyway, I really related and just wanted to share that. Thanks.
Absolutely. I think that's the whole reason they invented the Caesar, right? Or Sunday morning mimosas to get rid of the Saturday night hangover, 100%. That really...
Hey everybody, I'm Beverly. I'm an alcoholic. Good to be here. Yeah, this page really talks to me about my mental condition as an alcoholic, and the mental things, the mental malady that happens when I don't drink, because I tried to quit over and over again, and my family would be happy that I was sober, and then before you know it, I'm not working a program. I kind of have a sponsor. I'm trying to stay sober on the fellowship. I make that insane decision, completely stone cold sober, that I'm going to drink again. And, that baffled me for years. It baffled my family. They would look at me and say, "Are you kidding me? You're drinking again? Why?" And I really didn't know what to tell them. But here, in the book, it explains it to me. I have that peculiar mental twist that normal drinkers don't have. I need a spiritual solution. I need something really powerful. And I'm glad I have it today. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Marianne, did you have your hand up? Someone else had their hand up and they disappeared. Oh, well, Vanessa put her hand up. Vanessa.
Hi, my name is Vanessa. I'm an alcoholic. So I was sober for 2.5 years, and my husband died within those 2 years, and I relapsed during the 1 year of his anniversary. It was hands down the worst decision I've ever made, and this malady that they talk about is so real because it was just creeping in for about 2 months. And I was so busy packing my condo to try to sell my home during a pandemic that I didn't reach out to my sponsor and do the things that you're supposed to do, didn't come to the Zoom meetings. And I just want to say I'm so grateful for this group because I'm just happy to be back in these rooms and be with you guys and just be with people that understand, because this is very, very, very real. On page 22, when it says why the alcoholic reacts differently from normal people, I've questioned that my entire life. Why can't I drink like so-and-so? Why can't I be like that? Like this fantasy. And then I experimented with it and it just blew up in my face, and it was the worst decision I've ever made. But I'm just so grateful for you guys, and thank you so much for letting me share right now.
Thank you so much. Ladies, I just gotta say, I think I actually broke my toe. It's like so sore. I'm dying right now. I just had to say that out loud. Anyways, the tragic truth is that if the man be a real alcoholic, the happy day may not arrive. He has lost control. At a certain point in the drinking of every alcoholic, he passes into a state where the most powerful desire to stop drinking is of absolutely no avail. This tragic solution has already arrived in practically every case long before it is suspected. The fact is that most alcoholics, for reasons yet obscure, have lost the power of choice in drink. Our so-called willpower becomes practically non-existent. We are unable at certain times to bring into our consciousness with sufficient force the memory of the suffering and humiliation of even a week or a month ago. We are without defense against the first drink. Now I'm going to stop there and break down those two paragraphs because they're quite heavy. So it talks about that at a certain point in the drinking of every alcoholic, he passes into a state where the most powerful desire to stop drinking is of absolutely no avail. And that's when we cross into that state that Dr. Silkworth talks of as being hopeless. We are alcoholics of the hopeless variety. No human power can save us. That's what that paragraph is talking about. And of course, as most of us who are here in the room knows, that situation has already happened long before we realized it. So before I even tried to stop, I had probably been unable to stop. It was only when I actually tried to stop that I realized I couldn't. Again, this is one of those experiences that we don't need to explain. We don't need to try to figure it out. We don't have a time machine. We can't go backwards. It's just we've entered into that hopeless state where when we want to stop, we can't. And then, of course, any paragraph in this book that's in italics is very, very important, so might as well read it again and break it down. The fact is that most alcoholics, for reasons yet obscure, 85 years later, we still don't know the reasons, has lost the power of choice in drink. So I don't have a choice anymore when I've entered into this state. My willpower is not sufficient. I've lost the choice to drink. It happens suddenly, and I don't know why. I have these stupid, reasonable excuses to my head, but they actually don't make sense because I know all of the suffering that comes. I know every time I go out on a Friday night with $1,000 in my bank account, I come home with zero. And I know I burn my life to the ground and my relationships are unmanageable and my work is suffering and my children are being neglected. We are unable to bring into consciousness with sufficient force the memory of the suffering and humiliation of even a week or a month ago. So why do alcoholics tell us to play the tape? Just gonna say it, my opinion, dumbest thing you can say. Oh, if you're thinking about picking up a drink, just play the tape out. Okay. It doesn't happen. We forget the memory of the suffering and humiliation a week or a moment ago. It doesn't come to us. This morning we were actually just talking about this. I don't have a built-in forgetter. I have a built-in justificator. I justify it to myself. I don't forget it. I know it. I just tell myself a different story. This disease is not a disease of forgetting. It's cunning, baffling, and powerful. I trick my own self. I know the truth. I can't play the tape out because I forget it or I manipulate it or I tell myself it's going to be different this time. That was last time, but now I'm different. We are without defense against the first drink. That's plain as day. We are without defense. How do we get that defense? It comes from a higher power. And it's unexplainable. It's weird as heck. It's God. When I turn my will over to Him and I am practicing the principles of this program, magical things happen. My phone rings when I am in the worst of the worst situations in my head, driving to the liquor store just after my 1-year anniversary. My phone rings. Someone who never calls me called me. That's God. That's that first defense against the first drink. People are like, well, I don't understand how God's the first defense. Weird shit happens. That's the first defense against the first drink. Random weird stuff. When you're having the worst day out of nowhere, someone calls because they need help. When you're having a bad day, you don't call people and say, oh my God, I'm having the worst day. You call them and you're like, hey, how's it going? Telling you right now, they're having a shitty day too, and your phone call just saved their ass. Because I've experienced it. Not once, but twice in my 4 years sober. So that's where this first defense comes from. It's God. All right. Anybody want to share on those two paragraphs? Because they're so quiet, I think you either think I'm nuts or you're loving what I'm saying. I'm not sure. Mary at Toronto.
Loving
No,
it.
Okay, good.
You're speaking right to me right now. I'm getting all of this, so you're making perfect sense to me. I have in this top paragraph, the person who took me through this book said, "Willpower proves to be deadly, Marianne, when you go and lean on willpower." So I mean, it's important. She has me writing these things because I've been through this a few times. And you might not get an instant answer, but you just do what these directions tell you to do, and you'll be okay. But you got to follow the directions, and you got to take action.
Right. And you got to pick up the phone. If you're having a bad day and a newcomer calls you and they're the most annoying newcomer in the planet, and you're like, oh my God, I can't deal with this person because I'm having a bad day. That's God calling you. Pick up the freaking phone. Shadney.
Hi guys, I'm Shadney. I'm an alcoholic. Oh my God, I related to so much that you just talked about, like just being without defense against the first drink. You know, the first time I got sober in treatment, they asked you to write like your last 90 days. So that'll be something that you can pull out and read and kind of think, all right, I don't want to go back to that, so I'm going to stay sober today. But it's so cunning and baffling that, you know, I read my 90 days when I was like on my way to my relapse, and I changed the whole thing in my head. I was like, well, you know, this guy was really involved in my last 90 days. I'm just not going to hang out with him. I'm not going to drink with him. You know, that's going to solve my issue. And I'm not going to do cocaine this time, you know, so it'll just be one night. And I just rearranged everything in my head to justify it. And it's so crazy how, looking back, like I really believed the things my head was telling me. And I even like was going to meetings at the time, and I'll never forget this. There was this old timer, and he looked me dead in the eyes, and when I was sitting in the meeting, and he's like, don't keep coming back, just stay. And I'm like, oh, that's a really good point. I think I'm just going to go to the bar. Like, it just, nothing was on the outside was getting through to me. Like, when my mind wants to drink and I don't have that spiritual connection or trying to grow spiritually, like, I'm gone. It's going to happen. And yeah, that's all I got. It really reminded me of that. I was just hopeless in that sense. Like, no one from the outside could save me, and my 90 days was not of help at that point. So.
Thank you so much. Anne-Marie.
Hi. When I first came in, there were other newcomers who complained that every single meeting they went to, How It Works was being read. The 12 questions were being read. The 12 promises. Why do we have to listen to this every time? And an old timer got up and said, because you're fucking stupid. You forget. We're all fucking stupid. We forget. And this is how we remind ourselves. And also when usually newcomers would relapse and they would come in again, God bless them. It's got to be harder the second time around. They would come in and say, oh, well, you know, I just lost my job, so that's why I drink. And some old timer would look them right in the eye and say, you wanted to drink. That's it. And until they could admit that that was exactly what happened, they wanted to drink, they were doomed to relapse again. That's it. Thanks.
Absolutely. And I had a friend who was in and out of treatment. I think it was 20 times he was in and out of treatment. And my sponsee was his girlfriend. And when she overdosed, you know, I called and I made sure that the treatment center took care of him because I knew he was in treatment. He's looking for any excuse to pick up, any excuse. And that's what we do. We look for excuses. Lucille.
I am Lucille. I'm an alcoholic. The way I understand that play your tape to the end is when I first started drinking, when in my teens, and I first had that exhilaration of feeling like so much prettier, so much smarter, so much better dancer, And alcohol was my solution to all of my anxiety and depression and everything. So it was fun. It was fun. And then when I hear people say play the tape to the end, I start thinking about when I'm in my 50s and I'm drinking at home and I'm drinking at home alone and I'm hungover and I have the shakes and I don't know how much I need. And then that's the tape to the end. And then I go, no, I don't want to have that ending again. That's how I understood it anyways.
Yeah, and that makes sense. It made sense to me in my beginnings until you start to change the story. Because it's your tape, right? So when you start to change the story and you go, oh yeah, but now I've got self-esteem. But now I have a beautiful home. Now I don't have an abusive boyfriend. So I can change that tape with the but now because I have a different life. So that's the problem in playing the tape, is it's our tape. We can change the story. I know what happens if I pick up a first drink. I know my allergy kicks in. I know I burn my life down. But I have a solid step one and a solid grasp on my program. But if I didn't, I could easily change that tape and be like, well, you know what? I'm a successful business person now. I'm a successful member of society. I no longer have social services at my door. I'm a successful parent. So I could easily change that tape if I didn't have a solid grasp on my recovery. That's the danger. Marlene, you had your hand up, love? Did you want to share? Do it.
I did have my hand up, but I like listening. So, I was going to say, it's the first drink. Don't drink because it's the first drink that gets you drunk, and it's so true. I have this allergy, or whatever you want to call it, to alcohol, and once I start, I can't stop. And I have been at many parties. With people, they pour a glass of wine, and this is how I know that I am an alcoholic. I know what's in their glass. I know if they finished that glass. And when we go out to eat, I'm like, you didn't finish that glass of wine, and it's only one glass of wine. That would never be me. It would always be, well, maybe until that bottle is gone. And then, okay, we got to go out because we got to get more. But so when I took that first drink that gets you drunk, it set off the compulsion in me. And there wasn't anything that was going to stop it until I was laid out for the night. And I've already passed that point in my life where I don't know when it started, or I drank and I had a good time, but maybe, whatever the line that was, it doesn't really matter. It is. And I compared it to, if I was allergic with the willpower, if I'm allergic to we talked about allergies, you talked about strawberries, and it was said to me one time, you would drive around and you'd have a bottle in your car or something. Well, I was young at that time. So you drive around, you have a bottle under your seat or whatever, and they go, Marlene, would you drive around with an eggplant in your car if you were allergic to that eggplant? I was like, no, I wouldn't put an eggplant in my glove compartment. I just wouldn't drink. That would be the end of it. It would be once, and I would stop. So in the end, I had, with all these excuses and why I drank that night, as to put, whatever the excuse is. There are no excuses. I'm an alcoholic, and I drank because I was thirsty. I needed to drink. When I took that drink, I was just thirsty and I couldn't stop. And so for me, I tried to keep it simple. As if I take that first drink, I'm going to get drunk and I'm going to be thirsty, and it's going to continue the cycle. And I don't really need to understand why. I just know there is no willpower in this world except for my higher power that is going to save me. That's what I have to say.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Pam, did you have your hand up? I saw you.
Pamela, addict, alcoholic. I have a lot of good notes on this page, but I don't know if I should even bother with them. I wanted to just bring this up because I feel very comfortable with all you ladies. You were talking about phone calls with newcomers and picking up the phone no matter what and asking people how their day is, which when I do that, I feel great. And it's when I feel great that I do that. But when I'm struggling, I definitely isolate for sure. And then, I have some phone calls I should return. And it's, sometimes there's times when I call people I think they need my help and it ends up them helping me. So I don't want to be selfish about it, but I'm struggling with something and I really don't know who to talk to. I'm going to tell you ladies, because I don't think any of you are affiliated with my home group, and I'm having a struggle. I'm talking to my sponsor later. I don't want to talk to her about it. I don't want to talk to anybody in my home group about it. And I just kind of wanted to see what you ladies think I should do about it, because I feel like I'm kind of being attacked by the group or talked about behind my back by the group, like as a couple people or as a whole. And I'm struggling with it because that's happened to me several times before, in different situations. At work once, I remember I had a boyfriend I was dating at the time, and my coworker, and then my boss. And all three of those people were actually doing things against me behind my back. I learned I need to put that on my next fourth step while I was thinking about this. But I'm struggling with it because it's a resentment. It's bothering me, and it's hurting my feelings. And, I have trouble regulating or controlling my feelings, and it scares me. And I feel like such a wuss saying it's hurting my feelings, but I'm wondering what I can do about it. That's why I'm asking all of you. So as far as my notes go, though, I do have, this is kind of a gross one, but I went to a book study, and it's the alcoholic reacts, it's like somebody taking or eating X-Lax, a box of X-Lax, and trying not to shit. That's what the alcoholic is. So.
Absolutely. Yeah. And with regards to your question, I'm going to actually defer it to after the meeting, but I will say this now is number 1, get comfortable being uncomfortable. And number 2 is remember that this isn't Wellness Anonymous. Everyone here is not well. This is a program where people come to get well. And so unfortunately, we have to deal with these things, but always look for what part of you is it affecting. It sounds like there's a bit of a fear of judgment in there, and there might be some other fears attached. And we didn't come here to become robots. We don't love conflict, but we have the right to speak up and confront people. And we can chat about it more after the meeting, and maybe some of the ladies will reach out to you in the chat, and you guys can have a side conversation privately to carry on. Lucia.
Lucia, alcoholic. Just back to the allergy. It's always funny when people say, "Oh, I'm allergic to peanuts." You get the whole sympathy, like, oh yeah, I understand, but then, somebody's like, I get this all the time. They're like, oh, you want a drink? And I was like, no, thank you. Oh, how come? Like, it's just can I have a beer with me? And I was like, no, I really, I can't drink. I don't drink. Oh, like, why can't you drink? And I'm like, well, I got an allergy to alcohol. Yeah, an allergy. It's like unheard of. And I'm like, no, really, I can't drink. So it's like funny how like everyone can be understanding when it comes to like a food or drink reaction. And telling me an allergy to alcohol, and they look at you and like they're so confused by it. I don't know. It's just
Absolutely. And one thing I will say that drives me up the wall is people in meetings of Alcoholics Anonymous, when they describe the allergy and they say things like, I'm allergic to alcohol, I break out in handcuffs. I'm allergic to alcohol, I break out in cocaine. No. I'm allergic to alcohol, I can't control how much I drink once I start drinking. I got thirstier. Please don't say those other phrases, because someone will sit in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous and not relate. They'll be like, I've never been arrested because of my drinking, so maybe I don't have the allergy. Or I've never done cocaine, so maybe I don't have the allergy. Please describe the allergy as what it is. And I'm not afraid to, after a meeting, pull someone aside and say, please don't describe it that way, because it's going to make people think that they're not alcoholic. Because that's what we do. We look for any reason to say that I'm not an alcoholic. I've never broken out in handcuffs because I've had a drink. But I have the allergy. Once I start drinking, I can't stop or control how much I take. So I just wanted my little note to self. All right, back to page 24. I see no more hands. The almost certain consequences that follow taking even a glass of beer do not crowd into the mind to deter us. If these thoughts occur, they are hazy and readily supplanted with the old threadbare idea that this time we shall handle ourselves like other people. There is a complete failure of the kind of defense that keeps one from putting his hand on a hot stove. The alcoholic may say to himself in the most casual way, "It won't burn me this time, so here's how." Or perhaps he doesn't think at all. How often have some of us begun to drink in this nonchalant way, and after the third or fourth, pounded on the bar and said to ourselves, "Oh, for God's sakes, how did I ever get started again?" Only to have the thought supplanted by, "Well, I'll stop with the sixth drink, or what's the use anyhow?" When this sort of thinking is fully established in an individual with alcoholic tendencies, he has probably placed himself beyond human aid, and unless locked up, may die or go permanently insane. These stark and ugly facts have been confirmed by legions of alcoholics throughout history. But for the grace of God, there would have been thousands more convincing demonstrations. So many want to stop, but cannot. So again, that's hammering home that idea we've been talking about. I'm just going to the hockey game. I'm just going to have one beer Thursday night. Now it's Sunday and I've spent my rent and I've been drinking and doing God knows what else for the last 2 days. I can't. I nonchalantly tell myself that it's going to be different this time. This is, again, replaying home that playing out the tape. I'm going to tell myself it's going to be different this time. I'm going to tell myself it's just white wine, not red wine. I only get crazy when I drink red wine, so if I just stick to white wine. If I have a glass of water in between every drink, it's going to be different. How many people have tried that one? Well, I just need to drink water in between. Oh, I ate a big dinner with lots of carbs. It's going to absorb the alcohol, so it's not going to affect me as much. No, it doesn't work. Catherine.
Hey, everybody. My name is Catherine. I am an alcoholic. That first paragraph that we were reading, for God's sakes, how did I ever get started again? For me, it just instantly, if I hadn't already started drinking during the day while I was at work, if I had somehow made it through the day, my last hour left of work, I was already obsessing. And I would literally, I live in an apartment complex that's attached to a grocery store. So I would literally drive home thinking, just don't go by the store. Just don't go by the store. Keep going. Go past it. And I would be over and over. And I literally would get to the parking lot and be like, F it. It won't shut up unless I drink. That's the only thing that's going to make it stop. And there I would be again. And it was just the cycle. That's how it's just so insane, because the cycle would just go over and over and over again. So yeah, I totally relate to all of this. And it's maddening. It was like that's part of the piece that kept the cycle going was you messed up again. Well, now I got to drink because now I'm mad at myself. And now I got to drink because to make myself feel better. And yeah, that's all. Got it.
100%. Or it's like, well, I know I'm just going to drive home and then I'm going to get pissed off because I'm going to have to get up and leave again. So I might as well just stop on my way home. I used to think if I bought multiple bottles, that way I wouldn't have to make multiple trips and I would just drink all the bottles in the one day and then I'd have to go the next day anyways. Yeah, I don't know about these people that kept bottles in their house. I could never do that. Marianne, Toronto.
I've got lots of notes on this page, but one of them is a big one, and it says, "My mind is a liar." So I got to realize that this doesn't tell me the truth. And then when I justify and rationalize in that one paragraph that we had, for God's sake, you're pounding on bar, I'm still lying to myself. My mind's still lying. And then I get to the next paragraph, and this was pointed out to me. You got 3 options here. And that's locked up, may die, or go permanently insane. So that tells me I got to do something, and I got to keep reading, and I got to keep taking the actions that this book tells me to take. Or I've got only 3 options.
Absolutely. Anne Marie?
I'm very much like the lady who spoke before, Marianne. I'll stop with the 6 drinks wasn't a problem, but what's the use anyhow? I would be at home and I would say, okay, tonight I'm not going to drink. I'm home from work. I happen to not have any wine. I somehow did manage to get by the supermarket, probably because it was blocks away from home. I could take another route. But I'd be standing there, and I can actually visualize myself. I'd be standing there in the den going, oh, I'm not going to drink tonight. Oh, I'm not going to drink. You know, Anne Marie, if you're just going to obsess about it all fucking evening, you might as well go out and get a bottle of wine and try again tomorrow. You know? And I did this over and over and over again. When the 12 questions are asked, I always read if I'm the one reading them, I always say, have you ever tried to stop drinking for one evening and only lasted 10 minutes? I think 15 was my record. So I understand that what's the use anyhow? You know, that's it.
Thank you, Anne Marie. Jan? Oh, you gotta unmute. All good.
I'm Jan. I'm an alcoholic. Before detox, I always blamed the devil made me do it. That's how I got through the day. You know, I had to drink in the morning to get rid of the shakes, thinking, oh yeah, just a couple to get rid of the shakes, and then it'd last all day. But right now, my higher power is kicking that devil's ass, and I appreciate these meetings. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Well, yeah, I had lots of people making me do lots of things. It wasn't just the devil. That ex-husband, I drank angrily at him so often. Pamela W.
Pamela, addict alcoholic again. I just wanted to say this. It really hit home with me and made a lot of sense about the allergy, the allergic reaction. I didn't get that at first. To me, that it was a weird term for what I have. But I was studying, and I read about that doctors gave it that name because it's an abnormal reaction to a substance or chemical. So, for example, say Pamela appears to be energized by alcohol. That's weird. Alcohol is a sedative. So that's an abnormal reaction. I'll get energized. I want more and more and more and more. But most people, it's a depressant, you know, and it does a different thing. So it makes me think of like sometimes people take Benadryl and it wakes them up. It doesn't put them to sleep. So that whole allergy thing made a lot of sense when I learned that. That's all I got. Thanks, ladies.
Yeah, 100%. You just triggered something in my mind. My kids don't react normally to cough syrup. The drowsy cough syrup doesn't make my kids drowsy. Guess what? Why? They're alcoholic, right? Like, we've had alcohol in our systems long before we drank. So for these people that say if you never drank alcohol, you wouldn't be alcoholic, that's a load of BS. I just fell off my chair thing. Because we get it in small doses our whole lives. We do. My kids do not react the same as other kids to cough medicine. They never have. Never have. Guess why? They're alcoholic. All right. Any more hands? It's 5 minutes to. I'm not going to go on to the next page because it's a juicy one. So let's serenity prayer it up and we shall open it up for conversation.